Hello and welcome to the Gooner. We're back again with you guys for another show, for another episode of our Tactical Breakdown series, the show in which we look at the players that have been linked to the Arsenal in their analytical and statistical way. But this show is with a slight difference, and it's the first of a brand new spin-off series of the show called The Report, in which throughout the season we are going to be focusing in on a number of players that have been sent on loan by Arsenal, one of which being the French defender William Saliba. And to help me out on these shows, I'm going to be joined by an expert who will have watched that player a hell of a lot more than I would have done. I'm very happy to be joined today by Ben from the Marseille View. How are you doing, mate? Are you well?
Good. Yeah, happy to shed some lights on hopefully a player who has a bright future at Arsenal.
Yes, and I'm sure it's a player that obviously a lot of Arsenal fans are very interested in finding out, because I think that the overall feeling amongst the fan base is one of frustration that they've not really been able to see William Saliba play all that much. But just briefly, as is going to be important kind of for the listeners to understand, first of all, what the Marseille View is and who yourself is and how you got into Marseille. So give us the brief overview.
I was born in the UK. My mum's English, my dad's French. When I was 4, I moved there. My granddad's side of the family are from Marseille, so I didn't have a choice, really. I was handed the kit when I was a kid, and every summer I got the new kit, and I'd watch games with my granddad's, still do when I go to see them. And that's it now. And in London, we've sort of built up an international fan base with a few expats and a few actual British people who support Marseille, who got into it various times of their life, and we get together, watch the games, and debrief and have all sorts of debates as your community does at Arsenal.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. Obviously, TGT is global. We hear about kind of Arsenal fans from around the world supporting Arsenal, and the fact that yourself and from some friends are able to meet up and watch Marseille play is fantastic. And obviously, we hear about kind of the American Gooners and the Asian Gooners coming from India and China and places like that. But to hear kind of like a British sect of Marseille fans is great to hear that goes on and shows how global kind of football is. So specifically, kind of William Saliba, of course, joined Matteo Guendouzi at Marseille this season. What was the reaction amongst both you and the overriding view of the fan base when it was announced?
I think we were very happy. Saliba, we know him. He played in Ligue 1 at Saint-Etienne before he joined Arsenal. We were already, it would have been nice for Marseille to have the means of a PSG, for example, and have gone in for him. I mean, we all looked at him and thought he was a very impressive player. And he already sort of had that tag of the Varane 2.0. And from the minute he got that tag and the comparison started, you just know that a club like Marseille is going to really struggle to attract a player like that, especially if foreign clubs come in with more money and also the chance to play in a more competitive league. So we've always hoped that we'd sort of land him one day, and he's never hidden his admiration for Marseille as a club. And it's finally happened. So we were a bit, pleasantly surprised. We had a big summer of rebuild because we had 10 players leave, end of contracts, transfers offloaded that didn't succeed. So we knew we had to rebuild, but we also knew we'd be quite limited financially. But to land a player of his caliber, we were all very pleasantly surprised and delighted when the move got confirmed.
It's an interesting one when you talk about him in those terms, because saying like a player of that caliber and Mikel Arteta, I don't think he would agree with you, but it is. Do you find it strange? Was the reaction a strange one to see how Arsenal have barely used Saliba so far?
In France, not just in Marseille, but yes, it is. I think people are very surprised. I mean, he's had his struggles. I think he lost some loved ones shortly after joining the Arsenal. Then there were rumours of some disciplinary issues, etc., and the transition of coaches. Look, every coach has their reasons for not playing players or shipping them out, and then the next one comes in and suddenly they're a starter again. So you can't speculate. Something's happened. It must be personal, and I can't see any other reason. I'd be shocked if it's football reasons, especially compared to the likes of Holding and Chambers. If they're Arsenal starters, you go, Jesus, how Saliba not at least played one game,
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk then kind of specifically this season, how Saliba's slotted in on under Jorge Sampaoli, because it's been, Sampaoli himself is an exuberant coach, is probably an apt way of describing him. How has he positioned Saliba in the team?
So Sampaoli is for people who don't know very well. He worked alongside Marcelo Bielsa when Bielsa was the Chile national team manager, and then he took over from Bielsa and he led Chile to 2 Copa Americas. And he's very much a Bielsa disciple, whereas it's high pressing, high defensive line, all out attack, a lot of transition play, and a lot of a fast pace sort of progression up the pitch through different breaking lines and making forward runs. So he opts for a 3 at the back with 2 wing backs, but they're not wing backs, or certainly we haven't had wing backs play in those positions. We've had 2 very attacking minded players. And so you've got Balerdi in the centre of defence, who's the sweeper, and then you have Luan Perez, who came from Brazil, and Saliba plays on the right side of that 3-man defence. And I think he benefits a lot from having, because the midfield sort of shifts and changes as we have possession and as we transition to attacking positions. He's benefited because he's had Guendouzi as a fixed point who sits in that midfield role. He does commit forward, but he's more sort of that box-to-box minded player. So he does offer a lot of cover for Saliba, and Cengiz Ünder, who's the Turkish winger who's on loan at Leicester, who's killing it so far for us. I think he's got 3 goals in his first 4 games. He's done decently at helping him out defensively as well.
Let's go into the statistics of this, because obviously you mentioned there defensively, and that is where we're going to start with Saliba and kind of looking at him defensively, because Marseille have had a very decent start results-wise this season, winning 2 and drawing 1 of the first opening 3 games. Despite that, though, they've conceded still quite a few goals. 5 goals have been conceded across those 3 games. And so maybe those that are less in tuned among us may turn around and say, well, Saliba's been in a team that's conceded 5 goals in 3 games. What does that say about his defensive capabilities? But I'm aware that they may not have been his fault.
No, so 2, 3, well, I think easily 3 of the goals. So one of them's from set piece. And the other 3 have come down the left flank. Luan Perez, I think, doesn't, because our tactic is a bit misshapen in midfield, where, especially at the minute, we have Milik, our striker's out with injuries. He's coming back after the international break. So Sampaoli's opted for this sort of false 9 system where Payet and Gerson, the Brazilian midfielder, they interchange, which naturally leaves the left side more exposed than the right side, because that position is the one that is being sacrificed to have a more presence in the box when we go forward, which means the goals have come down the left side. Saliba, I think I can honestly say so far, has been our best defender. He's solid, he's quick. If you want to go into the stats here, the duels is misleading. So because of the way Sampaoli asks the team in the midfield to commit forwards, any duel that the defenders are going to have is going to be a man running at them with pace, and they either commit and lose the challenge, or they commit and get skins, or they win the duel. And I think that's where his stats in the duels department are misleading, but they're also accurate on the sense that he is him and the rest of the defenses are going to be very exposed.
In terms of kind of because we're going to look at the passing stats in a second, they're very impressive.
Yeah.
The amount of losses he makes in his own half, 17, and 58.8% of those have been, as it says there, in his own half. And this can't be from a misplaced pass, because we're going to see in a second, it's very accurate. So does he get caught when in possession trying to play out sometimes, and that's when he tends to lose the ball?
Yeah, so as you say, it cuts both ways, because his passing stats are very impressive. I think that because of the way that we play as a Marcelo Bielsa team as a Sampaoli team does, it's all out attack, and every player is asked to participate in the attack, even the defenders. So interestingly, and this is something that I hadn't seen in previous seasons watching Saliba, he is being asked to carry the ball forward, and to try and cut passing, to carve out passes and play progressive passes forwards, and to not play back as much as you would expect a centre half to. And I think, the duels that he's lost, the balls that he's lost have been when he's tried an over-ambitious pass sometimes. But I think as we will get into the passing stats, if you look at the sheer number of passes that he's being asked to play because of the tactic of the team and the way Sampaoli wants his defenders to participate in the build-up, when you play that many passes, you are going to lose balls. And it's just natural that you will get caught in possession when you're looking and waiting for the passing option that you've been coached and you've been instructed to look for, and you will get pressed.
253 passes in 3 games is a lot. It's a hell of a lot of passes. And 96% of those have reached their targets, which is obviously great. Long passing he's done quite well at, despite that not being really a big part of his game so far, which is interesting because it's actually at Saint Etienne, and his long passing was one of the key parts of his game that was focused upon as a positive. Passing into the final third and kind of linking up with either Guendouzi or Cengiz on the right-hand side, I'd say pretty good. It's perfect. It's 100% pass accuracy of 32 passes made. And of the 2 passes that's played directly into the box, those both reached their target as well. Would you describe, and I know this is going to sound like an obvious question now, but he does seem to come across very much like a progressive passing centre-back.
He is, yeah, and it's an aspect of his game, as I said, that he's had passing quality in the past, as you've said at Saint Etienne, but I think this is it's not punting it forward as a defender and picking up a long diagonal. This is participating in the build-up. If you look at his passing to the box, I think both of those came in this first game against Montpellier when we were away. We were 2-0 down at half-time, won the game 3-2. And in the second half, he was centre-back. He made 2 bombing runs forward, got into the box and was actually in the position, on the side of the 6-yard area, cutting it back twice. And that is the sort of football that the sort of positions you wouldn't expect to see a centre half in, but especially someone like a Saliba, who has always, I think, been portrayed as this solid defender, hard on his man, but needs to progress football wise. I think with a coach like Sampaoli and with a system like Marseille, he's going to have to shine in that department, and so far he has.
Do you think this is, if anything, even more damning for kind of Arteta, the decision to send him out? Because we've seen Arteta bring in Ben White, we've seen Arteta bring in Tomiyasu. Both of those are ball-playing centre-backs. He talked about Tomiyasu today in an interview and said how they brought him in because they like the fact that he can play in multiple positions, but also that he can play in multiple formations, and the fact he referenced the back 3. Do you think this kind of contradicts the idea then of sending him out and investing then upwards of £60 million on 2 players in the defence?
Yeah, I think you can't know, and this is where it gets confusing. I mean, I do follow Arsenal as well as my British team, and this is where it gets confusing when you consider Arteta's approach and certainly his messaging, which is trust the process. We want to transform this team into a ball playing out of the back and progressing from the centre halves and the keeper forward, etc. And as you say, the contradiction is when you see these kinds of stats for Saliba. Granted, it's in like Ligue 1 at Marseille against weaker opposition than in the Premier League. I disagree with that, but the British fans would always argue that point. You sort of look at it and go, well, if he's capable, yes, why have you gone out and splashed the cash on players that aren't necessarily complementary or that you need to mould into this process or this Arsenal system you're trying to implement? When seemingly you have a ready-made player here.
Let's go on to final kind of the more technical style kind of stats and how he is on the ball. Dribble 6 so far. 4 of those 6 have been successful and 4 touches in the box. Now, when we spoke yesterday, obviously I, from the complete dolt side of looking at football, just went, 4 touches in the box for a defender. That must be from corners. But that isn't actually the case, is it?
No, so I mean, 2 of them have been headers that narrowly missed the box. Missed the goal from set pieces from corners. But the other 2, as I said, were in the first game where he's taken a man on, and that's where he dribbles as well. He literally went past the man, skinned him on the right side of the area against Montpellier, cut a ball back. We didn't score from it, but it's still, for someone of his size and his sort of his position as well. You're like, my first thought was, Jesus, what's he doing so far forward? And then when he pulled it off, it's like, Jesus, let him go forward, do it again.
It's an interesting player that I think is, as we go through the season, as Ben and we meet up every month to kind of discuss how he's progressed and how he changes, those passing stats are going to decrease. To keep up 100% record in those areas is impossible for any player. And so we're going to see that. So it's going to be about how he deals with the demands, not just of Liga, but as obviously Marseille begin to play their Europa League campaign.
Yep.
It is Europa League, isn't it?
It is,
They're going to be involved in this season. So that's allowing him to be tested in even more against other oppositions too. And I'll be interested when the game against PSG. When is the game against PSG?
Sunday, 24th of October.
There you go. So we're going to be covering that in the October report, how he gets on against Mbappe, Neymar, and Lionel Messi now all up against him. So that'll be certainly very good. Are you looking forward to that, I can imagine? And I mean, how's that been for French football? Seeing Messi come into the league must be crazy.
Well, yes, but it's guttering because it's just going to be a bloody media circus. I mean, it's guttering for us because our rivals have signed him, and there's the whole argument of, oil club, oil money, blah, blah, blah. He doesn't care. He's mercenary like all of their players and whatever. That they're out of. We're not in the same league anymore. You can't compete. But it's more the circus. I mean, last week they played away at Reims. The Reims goalkeeper brings his kid on to have a picture with him at the end. The referees are posing for pictures, and the fans, the home fans, even though they were away, are chanting Messi, Messi from the stands. You're like, guys, really? And that's weird, that's the most frustration.
That wouldn't happen in England. I can't imagine you'd see like.
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, Ronaldo's going to get absolutely battered. I can imagine. Yeah. It's a different culture, isn't it? It's strange.
Yeah, Messi will get his fair share of abuse when they come to our place, for sure.
Sure. Oh, yeah, for Le Classique, which is going to be very, very interesting. We've got a few opportunities for questions in the chat box, guys. So in regards to kind of your feelings about Saliba, if you have got something you'd like to know about how he's got on so far, there has only been 3 opportunities to see him in a competitive game. But there has been a couple of questions come in. King, one of our members, says, do you think that Saliba can play as the sweeper of those 3 for Marseille? Because he's such a good passer.
I think the way that Sampaoli builds his team, all of those players could play in any of those defensive positions. And maybe we will see that, certainly against tougher opposition, would be my guess, that maybe he would slot back there. And that a lot of that depends on, obviously, the transfer market is just closed, and we were hoping to offload Duje Cheleta, who's the Croatia international. We didn't manage to offload him. His wife just had a baby last week. He was given the chance to join Wolves. I don't really blame her for not wanting to switch the south of France with Birmingham. But if he plays his way back into the team, then the last couple of seasons he's been the progressive passer, and he's played the Saliba role that Saliba's currently playing. So it would be interesting to see if he does manage to work his way back into the first team squads after being a bit sidelined as we were hoping to offload him. Maybe that will change. But I would guess that if Saliba keeps up these passing stats and keeps up impressing, certainly with his forward play and his ability to get forward, I'd almost argue it'd be wasted to put him in the sweeper position, because he's been so decisive down that right side, and he combines well with Guendouzi and Cengiz Under on the right so far.
Question from PAPP, and arguably one of the best named accounts I think I've ever seen on YouTube, Schrodinger's Cat's Flap, which is just hilarious. How do you feel about Guendouzi? How has he gone? We aren't doing a dedicated series on Guendouzi, but Ben, I imagine we'll have a catch up on each of these shows about how he's going.
Again, another one. I mean, look, he's more of a character than Saliba. I think it's pretty clear that he's had his issues. I think Arsenal fans have seen him argue with Neil Maupay, and there's rumours of this dressing room dissent with Emery already, and then Arteta, and he was shipped out on loan. Again, we're very happy he joined. I've always liked him. I remember watching him when he joined Arsenal. I remember seeing him boss the game away at Old Trafford. And he's been one of our star performers. And for considering we've had for the last 5 years not very ball playing midfielders, we've had workhorses, we've had a lot of defensive minded players that could pick a pass and sometimes shoot and score. But he can dribble, he can pick a pass, and he scored his first goal for us on Sunday. And I just think he's got that craziness about him that a stadium and a fan base like Marseille will embrace and will respond to, because we like it when they're a bit crazy, when they show their grinta and their corones, as we like to say, the South American word. So he's done really well so far. He didn't struggle, but I think he was well closed down and managed out of the games by oppositions in the first couple of games. But he was brilliant on Sunday. I think actually him and Saliba were our best performers on Saturday night, against Saint-Etienne. So he's very happy with him. But again, I think on the contrary to Saliba, the question mark with Guendouzi is will he remain consistent? And we all hope he does, because he's had a great start.
Yeah, I mean, called up to the French national side, of course, replacing Tolisso alongside Rabiot, and that is going to be, that would have been, I think, Arteta would have been grimacing maybe a little at seeing that happen. And it's, look, coming from the perspective of an Arsenal fan, seeing two of our young guys leave on loan and their value basically butchered by the current management. Now, I have vocalized my reservations on Guendouzi, and I've always said that you can't sacrifice the kind of your kind of mental position, managerial position, standpoint, and
the harmony
of your players and the harmony of the squad, no matter the value of a player. And the issue has been obviously that's fine, but Arteta's not been consistent with a number of issues that have also happened. We think of Willian travelling to Dubai and being in the same team the week later. He's thrown players like Pepe under the bus after a red card against Leeds. There is the inconsistency, and that's why it's very difficult to defend that decision against Guendouzi when there have been instances of, the Ainsley Maitland-Niles the other day was issues with that, and then less than a day later, all is forgiven, all is forgotten, and he's now apparently part of the plans again, isn't he?
Yeah, I think Guendouzi and certainly some of these characters that are probably a bit more vocal and have a bit of an attitude and a bit of an ego, they need the right coach. And is Arteta the right man for these type of players? Seemingly not. And you look at the difference. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw what happened when we played away at Nice a couple of weeks ago. They had to call the game off. If you've got a Sampaoli willing to punch opposition fans and beat the shit out of everyone, if you're Guendouzi, I would imagine you pipe down in training and you just focus on playing football, because he will probably slap you around.
Maybe, yeah, maybe so. Maybe it's the perfect coach for him, to be fair. A lot of people used to say they wanted Sampaoli at Arsenal. That would have been very interesting.
You would never have gotten on with the Cronkies. No, it wouldn't have lasted. It's the same thing with the people asking for Conte. I just don't think that the owners, their mentality currently, they want a yes man. They don't want someone to come in and cause a fuss.
I am in the Conte camp, but I have to say I agree with you in the sense of how he would get on with KSE. I have no idea. King in the chat says, sorry, Tom, today Ben is getting all the attention. That's fine. That's what we're here for. This is actually the Ben show today, King, so you don't need to apologise. But King asks, do you think Saliba will be sold next summer and maybe join PSG after his loan spell?
Yes, well, that's the danger, isn't it? And we have a Marseille WhatsApp chat for all the UK fan base that we put together here, and we've been raging debates about this. Is the only sour note is we've got him on loan but no option to buy, and if you were Arsenal you wouldn't include one, but we'll see what happens. I mean, you see sometimes players, if Arteta goes and there's a way to play his way back into Arsenal, maybe he'll fancy it. Or maybe it's happened before with Marseille. Players just settle at the club. If he helps us achieve our goal of Champions League qualification and he wants to stay for the adventure, maybe he'll put in a transfer request and we'll put in an offer. You never know what will happen. But yeah, my fear is that, as much as he might impress for Marseille, it will cause us problems because he will have better offers on the table. And it may cause Arsenal problems as well because bigger clubs may come knocking. I don't know if PSG have room for him. They've just signed Ramos. They've got Kimpembe. They've got Marquinhos. They've got a number of players at the back. And Kimpembe is sort of he's already in the France squad, so you would argue he's a bit ahead of Saliba in terms of his sort of profile. But maybe another club. If you're Real Madrid and you've lost Varane, Saliba looks to me like a natural replacement for him, or Leipzig or Dortmund or somewhere that do take gambles on these youngsters that maybe flop in their first spell in a big club and then buy them for on the cheap when they're 22, 23 and then sell them when they're 26 for 40, 50 million.
Yeah, honestly, it's difficult hearing stuff like that when he's our player and it's just not working out at Arsenal, and it's completely out of the fans' control because it's all in as it is. But it's out of the sense of it's annoying knowing how good this kid is and yet isn't being given this chance.
I think that would be the frustration for you guys if he does end up doing what King Said's suggesting is the problem is because he's not even played.
It's like Ken Bates then.
No, but the problem is with Saliba is that indeed, on the contrary to Guendouzi, for example, who had 6 months in the team and then was on the periphery and stuff like that. Saliba's not played a single minute, so you would be frustrated from your point of view. Does he even feel any attachment to Arsenal? Because he's not played in the stadium, he's not seen the fans, he's not had the chance to be part of a big away win or something like that. Or so does he have that loyalty, that attachment to Arsenal when it comes to going back there permanently? If other offers are on the table, I'm not convinced.
Obviously, he was an Arsenal fan when he was growing up, and the hope I have is that he will be able to separate Arteta from Arsenal, and if say Arteta moves on in the season, which is a possibility, that Saliba would come back under a new coach who would have a complete clean slate with him and hopefully give him an opportunity. But it's one that we'll have to wait and see. Ben, we're going to round things off there for our first episode throughout the season, and Ben will be joining us every single month, along with maybe some more colleagues from the Marseille View.
Maybe one more, we'll see. But guys, happy to give an insight. I do try and support Arsenal as my second team. It's not easy, but I share many of the frustrations, and I also watch both the Marseille and Arsenal games, so I can, as we do the deeper analysis as the season goes on, I'm sure we'll be able to compare situations and results and say, well, maybe it would have made a difference there, or maybe he wouldn't have made the difference, etc. But Tom, thank you for having us on. We're happy to support, and if anybody has any questions, I've said to Tom, we're happy to sort of, if you put some in writing to Tom, 5-6 every couple of weeks, we're happy to send out some answers.
Absolutely. I mean, even so, you can directly message Ben if you like at the Marseille View, and I'm sure that they'll be able to get back to you as well. So either way. We will be back a little bit later on this evening for episode 2 of the report. And we were joined by Alex Grace, Millwall reporter, as we cover Daniel Ballard's time at the Den and see how he's getting on. A very different environment, or maybe not so different, after watching the Marseille game. So maybe not so different at all. It's interesting where Arsenal was sending their players on loan to, but that's going to be interesting. So make sure you do tune in a little bit later on this evening as we delve into the first few games of Daniel Ballard's career at Millwall. Absolute pleasure to join you once again, Ben, and I'm sure we'll see you again very soon. Please, no problem at all. Please do like the video. Yes, yeah. Please do like the video and subscribe to the channel if you are new around here with those notifications turned on so you never miss a show. You can join up as a member to help support things too and get access to lots of lovely stuff in the process. See you soon, guys. Have a great day. And as always, up the Arsenal.